I see a lot of these videos and stuff with these people getting pulled over from the police and automatically hostile when the cops whirl up on them. What you pull me over for? What did I do? You know, that kind of thing. What's your thoughts on all of that?
One thing I told my son early on, I said, "You'll never win a fight on the street with.
That's true.
You're not gonna win that because they trained to go home.
Hmm.
And they gonna go home by any means necessary. They're gonna do what they got to do. They're gonna write it the way it's supposed to sound.
Hmm.
Thank God for body cameras now, but it's up to us to come and prove it otherwise.
Hmm.
So my advice to anybody getting pulled over, just comply, even though they dead wrong.
Hmm.
Comply, because you're not gonna win that argument or that fight out there on the street. Now, when we get in the courtroom, we tear them up.
Right.
Then they can't answer those questions.
This is Strategic Moves with Ken Dao.
What's up, everybody? You tuned in to another episode of Strategic Moves. I'm your host, Ken Dao. This is a place where I bring art, culture, politics, and business all together, and I do it every Sunday right here on this channel. Today, I have somebody here who I've been dealing with each other for well over 20 years. Again, my daughter is 21 this year, and I met you before she was born. So that means that you've been in the house at least 21 years of our relationship. He is one of the best attorneys in Cleveland. So if you're ever in trouble, you need to know this brother. His name is Mr. Carlos Johnson. He's Carlos Johnson's attorney at law right here in Cleveland. So everybody in the RC studio, let's welcome Mr. Carlos Johnson to our program. Welcome, Carlos.
Ken, what's going on, man? Appreciate you
Struggle,
having me.
man. How you doing, man?
Hey, long day, but hey, I'm here.
Carlos is a big-time attorney right here in Cleveland. He's part of a law firm that's right here in Cleveland. He has another partner, Fernando Mack.
Yeah, we're in office together. A lot of great lawyers in my office.
Mm-hmm.
We got Donald Butler, who's been around 40 years, maybe even longer. Then we got new ones just out of the prosecutor's office.
So mainly, what kind of law do you practice?
95% is criminal.
Mm-hmm.
So we do everything from capital murder down to a parking ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Not a parking ticket, with speeding, OVIs.
Mm-hmm.
We do things that most people get in trouble for.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, we meet people at their worst moment. Something happened to a family member or themselves. My motto is sometimes bad things happen to good people. I do criminal defense. I worked at the I believe I met you when I was at the prosecutor.
Yeah, that's when you first got started. It was you and remember, what was her name?
Dennis was there for
Dennis was there with us, and it was Tracy. Was her name Tracy? Not Tracy. Tracy was there too. Remember Tracy Peoples?
Tracy
Peoples was there. And Angela
Collins. I'm not Angela Collins. Angela Thomas.
Angela Thomas. And
married now, Angela Thomas Fain.
Yes, and she's still at the prosecutor?
She's still at the prosecutor's office.
Wow, okay. Yeah, I remember Angela.
I bumped into her other day, as a matter of fact.
Angela was so nice.
She was.
She was really, really nice. Good people. So, tell us more about the firm.
So, like I said, we do everything from capital murder all the way down to speeding. We don't do so much speeding, but OVI type stuff, domestic violence, everything in the middle, ag robberies, major drug offender cases. You name it, we probably dealt with it coming through the door one way or another. This year's been busy. I think we've been lucky enough. We're one of the few people in the city that's probably won back-to-back murder trials.
Really?
Yeah. Fernando won one earlier on, then we won one together. I tried another one with another associate in the office, and we won that one, and then we have one dismissed. So doing pretty good. And keep in mind, I'm not glorifying that because someone lost someone. So there's winners and losers in these type of situations.
Right.
No one really wins when someone goes away for life and someone goes in the ground.
Well, that's what made me really get you on the program, because you made the comment at some point, you're like, doing this work is hard on both sides. Sometimes winning feels almost like, are you winning? Are you part of the situation? Especially when people, I was like, do they come back all the time? You're winning so good. People coming back often?
People do. I had this conversation with someone. I said, sometimes I feel like I'm a part of the problem. They go, well, why do you say that? I said, because I get a young man starting in juvenile, beating the case, and he thinks he can keep doing it. He graduates. Now he's getting in trouble as an adult. Get a couple of lucky swings, and it's like, you got to do your best job. You know what I mean? But am I hurting that person down the road?
Are you really hurting down the road? I don't want us to come back to that, but we got to go down this road because it's important to us, especially here, to me, that we understand the people that we know and who we're dealing with. So, Carlos, tell us where you grew up at, man.
Well, I grew up in Atlanta. So I transplanted here from Florida. I went to Florida State. I met Justice Stewart, actually, in Atlanta.
Okay.
And I was at a law school forum, and she was like, we'd like to have you come to Cleveland.
Hmm.
I just got out of the military, so I really didn't care where I lived. I just went to school. Talked to her. She talked me into it. I moved up from Florida to Cleveland.
Really?
Drove a U-Haul. Long trip. Okay, never do it again in life.
So you came up here to go to school?
Came up here to go to Cleveland State. I met people, and I said, Cleveland's not a bad city, despite what you see and what you hear, the mistake on the leg. I literally was in New Orleans, and they got a big sign in one of the restaurants that said, "At least you're not in Cleveland." I was like, what? But when I looked at Cleveland from my perspective, I said, it's a great place to raise my kids.
Really? And you was coming from Florida?
Yeah. So I moved up here, settled, stayed.
So you ended up going to Cleveland State and you went to Marshall for law?
Yes, Cleveland Marshall College for Law, yes.
Okay, and then from there, what made you decide when I got into prosecutor, I didn't want to be on that side, I want to go on the other side?
So back when Johnny Cochran was alive, he came to Borders Bookstore to sign his book. I was in law school, so I went up there to meet with him. And I had a few seconds. I just, hey, I know you're busy. I said, I'm in law school. Give me some. He said, go to the prosecutor's office, go to district attorney, because that's what they use out in L.A. He said, go to the district attorney's office. You're going to learn how to try cases. He said, that's what I did, and that'll make you a great trial attorney. So I thought about it, said, hey, I might go do that. Because everybody in law school has this idea, I'm going to be a big law firm, I'm going to make all this money. And that's what they, I guess, what you have in your mind when you come into law school. Goal is, I want to be a big firm,
right.
I want to make big money. And
Partner. Name on the door.
Name on the door and be happy.
Right.
So that was like, okay, prosecutor's office. I wouldn't really think about that. Nobody likes to prosecute. I mean, from our community, the prosecutor ain't your friend.
Right.
But I was working in Cuyahoga County Probation Department for juveniles.
Okay.
So I was doing that while I was in school. So it kind of looked like a natural transition once he said that. Okay, maybe I'll give that a shot. And I met you, I met Dennis at some point in time. I believe Dennis was working at the prosecutor's office at that point. So I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm interested. I think this is something I want to do.
And so that got you on there.
They got me in the door.
And so how you like working over there at the prosecutors on that side of the law?
I can honestly say I did like the job. I had a high conviction rate. Yeah, I was probably about 85% conviction rate. But I didn't like all the policies that were there at the time.
Okay.
Meaning, I believe they thought if you got indicted, you did something wrong. And that's not always the case.
Okay.
I remember 4 cases I took to trial, and I'm a God-fearing man, so I pray before these trials to make sure, hey, if he's guilty, let him be convicted. And 4 people I lost on, I had no problem losing. Because I didn't think they did anything wrong, but in that environment, you go to your supervisor and say, hey, I don't think something's right, something's wrong with this case. They're like, try it. Let the people decide. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I didn't really agree on that because put people through that trauma of a trial.
Right.
And the money they've spent.
I was about to say expensive. Right.
The money they've spent.
Right.
And then, oh, well, I'm guilty. Okay. I didn't agree with that. Stop in the pretrial status when you think this is not a good. And I've actually ran into a couple of those people I lost against. So it was interesting because they were trying to figure out who I was. And I knew who they were. And, and they would make an idle conversation. So try to trigger the memory. And I'm thinking, he's trying to remember who I am. I tell him, oh man, I remember this one guy in particular. I told him, I said, got this. But he looked at me and said, why'd you do me like that? I just had to do my job. I said, if I was sitting over there with you, I'd be fighting just as hard to get you off. But I think you're going to win this. And he won. And I was happy he won because I really didn't think he did anything wrong. And it might sound hypocritical that I'm fighting to get him, but I didn't think he did anything wrong, but I had to do my job.
Now, I guess that goes to the next conversation about Cuyahoga County being one of the largest counties with the largest number of overcharging people.
They do overcharge. A lot of times you see stuff, you're like, oh, this is ridiculous. But when you look at the law, there's several different alternatives. So they'll indict you in the alternative. So if me and you got into a fight during this podcast and I pulled out a knife, that's felonious assault because I threatened serious physical harm with a weapon. They'll say with a knife. Now, if I stab you, serious physical harm. So they indict you in the alternative. It's kind of a crazy, like a catch-all. They're trying to catch you with something.
Right.
You hear that saying, we throw a lot of stuff at the wall to see if it's going to stick. And sometimes it doesn't. But they do over-indict.
Do you think the prosecutor's office ever look and think somebody's just innocent? Or is everything that goes through here, we assuming this person is just guilty right off? How guilty, we're going to find out.
I think at some point when it goes to grand jury, it doesn't take much to get you indicted. The standard for the grand jury is probable cause. So is it possible that he did it? So that's what they got to contend with.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I think cases go no bail. I've had that happen a few times,
Mm-hmm.
but it rarely happens.
Mhm.
But the joke is you can indict a ham sandwich.
Okay.
So what does it take to do that? Someone just saying that you did.
So how long did you stay at the prosecutor's office?
I worked there about 5 years.
Okay.
And it was like a case came up where I was at my wit's end with how things were ran.
Mhm.
So a young lady had sex with an older guy. So unlawful sexual conduct with a minor for this particular defendant. But the problem is the young lady had lied about 5 times about who it was.
Mhm.
So me thinking as a prosecutor, I told the subordinate, I said, hey, I don't want to put this little girl through this cross-examination from the defense because obviously she didn't tell the truth at first.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got the guy. I'm just thinking about global resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I said, get this guy a misdemeanor, but make it a sex where he still has to register. So we were protecting the public.
Mhm.
I'm not putting this little girl through this trauma trial. And we had that agreed with a supervisor, but the young lady who was working under me went to our chief of the criminal bit
Mm-hmm.
and asked him, said, hey, can you write this up so I can do it? And he goes, what are you doing? This guy had sex with a minor.
Mm.
No, you take that to trial.
Mm.
He come to me and said, oh, he said, take it to trial. I said, well, you know what? I told everybody it was missing. I approved it with the mom,
Mm-hmm.
defense counsel, everybody involved. So let's take it to somebody else. Now, I was wrong because he was the chief of the criminal bit. He was over everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I got it accomplished. And later that day, he asked her, I was in the office and I heard him ask her, hey, what happened with that case? And she was like, oh, we got it in a misdemeanor. And he was like, I was like, I just walked out the door. I'm like, here we go. I already knew it was going to be a headache. So my phone was ringing by the time I got to the parking lot. What's going on? I took my say, I ain't got no excuse.
Mm.
I can't give you no excuse. It is what it is. I gave my word, kept my word over what you told me.
Right. Did you think it was an issue though? It would have been an issue.
Kind of, it's one of those things where if he didn't find out, we was good. But she told him. So
right.
he found out quicker than later. And it was one of those things like I didn't know whether to get fired or what the case
Right.
is going to be. But I stood on what I said because
Mhm.
I gave my word to everybody.
Okay.
And contrary to what people believe, lawyers are not allowed to lie.
Right.
You know, that's an ethical violation.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear that lawyer and you hear all the,
yeah.
but I gave my word to everybody. And I'm just like, I'm not going to go back because somebody who doesn't go in the courtroom anymore felt like something should happen.
Right.
You know, the idea is to protect the community.
Mhm.
That's what we're here, seek justice.
Right.
Putting a little girl through cross-examination in a trial.
Obviously, she was uncomfortable with it because she wouldn't
Right.
give
Well,
up in it. Right.
She engaged in these activities, even though she was younger.
Right.
She's about 15.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like 20-something.
Right.
So, I mean, that happens probably every day. But
Mhm.
from my perspective, I gave my word. This is what
Got you.
I wasn't happy with. So I left shortly after that.
Mhm.
And they didn't fire me. I thought they were going to demote me. He actually called me in. I never forget this. Said, hey, it is what it is. You know, what do you have to say for yourself? I have nothing to say. It's just, I'm sorry, but I gave my word.
Mhm.
He pulled the right up out of the trash can. It was smoothing out.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, you kidding me? You go pull this out of the trash can and have me sign it now? He goes, oh, yeah, just sign it. I said, you threw it away. You didn't even want to write me up yourself. But, I said, okay. At that point, I left not too long after.
So right after that, you decided to do
Yeah.
your own practice, Carlos?
Yeah, after that, I started working for Fernando Mack and Myron Watson.
Okay.
So they pulled me in, learned a lot just from the criminal defense side because them two were already doing big cases, early on. So I learned a lot from them. Then I kind of went out into my own, but we all kind of stayed in the same office space.
Okay.
So I became instead of an employee, I became a tenant, and it just kind of worked its way from there.
And so now that leads you up to some of the stuff that you guys doing, and you were talking about some of the big cases.
Yeah, we do a lot of big drug cases, murder cases, and generally, if it's a murder case, we'll partner up.
Mhm.
And I always say 2 minds are better than one, especially when you're dealing with someone's life.
Mhm.
And we work pretty good together. We think hand in hand.
So the ultimate goal as a defense attorney, most people come to you. Are they coming to you? I imagine they coming with the idea that I want to get off or whatever the circumstances is, even if they're wrong. But also maybe they coming to you also with the idea of, I want to just make sure whatever happens is fair and I'm able to maybe negotiate the better terms. Is a lot of that way, or everybody coming in like, Carlos, get me off?
Well, I tell everybody my goal, put you in the best position possible.
Okay.
And I never ask what they did or not.
Mm-hmm.
People get upset. You don't know what I don't care whether you did it. I care whether they can prove it. There's a difference. There's a lot of innocent people who are in prison right now
Mm-hmm.
who probably shouldn't be there. There's a lot of guilty people probably walking free. But it's all about the elements of the crime. Can they prove what they say you did? Mm-hmm. When I do my voir dire, I pick somebody. I say, hey, give me a favorite recipe. You make chocolate chip cookies from scratch. You always got somebody, yeah, I got the flour and the sugar. But I said, if you take the flour out of that, do you have your chocolate chip cookies? Or if you take the chocolate chips out?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way the indictment is.
Mm-hmm.
Every element of the crime is no different than the ingredient in your favorite chocolate chip cookies or the ribs you make at your home kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got to have everything there. If everything ain't there, they ain't got a case.
Mm-hmm.
So I also tell them, look at it like a play.
Mm-hmm.
Prosecutor has put this play on. He needs all his actors. They got
Right.
to know their line. And we sit there and wait and capitalize when they don't.
Mm.
If that one witness don't show up, capitalize on it. And you got to be able to see it. And I think working at the prosecutor's office gives you the ability. I always say it's like Neo in the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're on the other side of the table, you look at a police report, you go, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can see what's missing, what's not there. You know what they need to make the case. And once you see it's not there, you work your hand.
So, Carlos, in your opinion, what's going on with the violence in the city, and why is it so much going on in the city of Cleveland? I did a report on our last Brother Can We Talk. I think it was something like 127 or so murders in Cuyahoga County, and majority of them coming out of Cleveland, majority of them being African-American males. And you talked about sometimes feeling like you're part of the problem in that. So what's going on out there, man? Do you get a chance to talk to a lot of these guys on that note, I guess, at sometimes? Or what do you think could be done from a county or a city's perspective to maybe work closer with you guys, with some of these guys?
Well, I'm a criminology major, so you got to think deep in, like, why is it happening?
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have one side, well, it's the access to guns. And
right.
I seen a TikTok the other day where all these kids up in Chicago had these, I think they was in a gym somewhere, and they like, it's 100 guns in here.
Wow.
And I'm a 2A person. I believe in
Mm-hmm.
Second Amendment right.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody should
right.
keep their arms. You know that.
Exactly.
But I think you got to safeguard, not have them where your car gets broken into or your house gets broken into and all these guns are out on the streets. I think we need a different type of community-based police.
Mm-hmm.
People out here in these streets are afraid of the police. Police are not your friend. So I think we need community-based policing that gets to these kids. I think we need more activities in the afternoon, boys and girls clubs, something to keep these kids out of the streets. I think we got to have goals set for these kids early on, because a lot of these kids thinking, what's my future? Because right now, who are they looking up to in the neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
The guy with the big rims on his car, the loud
Right.
music, and got all the women. That looks good until his car is shot up on 55th.
But I like to imagine you're not getting too many other youths coming to your office, right?
Quite a bit.
So where they getting money from?
They're selling drugs. They're doing
Really?
whatever they got to do.
Mm-hmm.
I once had a murder case where it was a kid.
Mm.
Somebody broke into somebody's house, found a gun, because they knew the gun was there.
Mm-hmm.
And another kid who was doing nothing got hit with a stray bullet. So, I mean, it happens. And that's why you got to safeguard your firearm. You got to have safes. I know people who got 30, 40 guns and they got a safe to put them in.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, you got to be responsible with your gun ownership.
I was talking to Judge Ryan, who kind of said the same thing. Most of them are getting it just like you say, either breaking in a car, breaking into a home or something, and they're finding weapons that way. And that's what they're using out here to do most of these crimes with.
A lot are. I mean, I'd had a string of juveniles who they're just out here robbing people. And they look like, oh, I'll stick you up for your car, but then I understand the gravity behind
Mm-hmm.
what happens once you pull that gun.
Mm-hmm.
And our county prosecutors, I think, you look at the records, he's probably bound over more kids than anybody in history.
Right.
You know what I mean? So once you get caught with a gun, Judge Ryan probably told you the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're 16 with a gun, it's mandatory. Ain't nothing he can do stop you from going downtown.
So still, with that being the case, they still don't care.
That's the disconnect. Why do they think it's okay to go out and rob these people? And I just think it's this mentality. If you look at the IQ of some of these kids,
Mm-hmm.
they're low IQ on IEPs, below 70, that tells you they have problems reading, writing, comprehending. And if you talk to a school teacher,
Mm-hmm.
if a kid is not diagnosed And everybody doesn't know that he can't read. When he's called upon to read, he's going to act out because he don't want to get clowned on and embarrassed. And I think social media just makes it that much bigger because they'll videotape you can't read, send a meme out, and then you're embarrassed by thousands of people as opposed to just people in class.
Mm.
So if you think about how these kids act out in school because they're not diagnosed, they can't read or write,
That's interesting.
that's one of the problems. Or usually the biggest, baddest person who everybody afraid of is the problem with learning disability because you ain't going to mess with him, you ain't going to tease him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. That's interesting you say that. I believe that is a big issue. One of the things we were talking about, and you'll be a good person to answer this, we were talking about the county jail. I was working on that project to help do some community outreach in regards to the county building a new jail. From your opinion, you've been dealing with a lot of people, and I imagine go down there. Do you think we need a new jail?
Well, that's that building old.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from what I hear, there's safety issues with it. Right? So it's overcrowded. I hear people telling me they have to sleep on the floor. I mean, it's not a hospitable place when you got people who would rather go to prison than be in the county jail.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So to me, when it says, get me out of here, I'd rather be down in Lorraine than here. I think that speaks volume.
Mm-hmm.
So do I agree with building a bigger jail to hold more people? Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to fill it up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, get that money from whoever pays for each head
Mhm.
coming in the door. I don't know if that's the answer, but I think they do need a new facility. I don't think the facility should be separated from the courthouse
Mm-hmm.
because we have a hard enough time getting people upstairs when they're in the same complex.
But isn't that just because the complex is that bad? I mean, really
It's
think
old.
about how bad it is if you can't get from people from downstairs to upstairs in a building.
Just
It got to be
elevators
really bad.
break. I mean, it's logistics.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on? I mean, manpower, logistics. Everything is all tied up into one.
Gotcha.
I think it's a temporary Band-Aid for a problem we have in the community.
So do you think it's necessary to build a facility that houses more along the lines to deal with the juveniles? I'm thinking more along the lines of we're having this issue where these kids are falling out of foster care that's close to aging out, that are now being left out there, that are probably contributing to a lot of the crime and stuff we're getting because, as you say, there's no out and they have no way. And I'm thinking that county needs a facility that, not for kids who committed a crime that you in juvenile, but something in between, I'm thinking.
Well, I think you do have that group of kids who age out
Mm-hmm.
and they age out to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you,
Right.
you know, if you haven't had that plan put in place, especially if you've been jumping from house to house.
Right. And they can't wait till you turn 18 to tell you to get out, right?
I don't know if the answer is some type of group home after you age out. Didn't speak to that, but just common sense wise, if you got kids who are barely, I look at half these kids who take a plea down here,
Mm-hmm.
what you hear is 9th, 10th, 11th,
Right.
9th, 10th, 11th, 7th.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely do you hear I graduated from.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of the problem as well.
Okay.
If these kids are jumping from house to house, that means they're going from school to school.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going from school to school, your credits ain't adding up. A lot depends on that education component, the guidance you get. I don't know if they require these foster care parents, and probably bless them, they're probably doing the best they can with what they have. But there's probably no programming once you get placed in the house. When they, he's good, we ain't got to worry about him for now. That's probably what the
Correct.
social worker is saying.
Correct.
But I think maybe if they had something saying, hey, this person's 16, let's check in and see how they're doing in school.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
What's his plan for after he
What's
get
his
ready to
plan?
get out of school?
And-
Because he's going to be leaving y'all. And that's not a bad idea, Carlos. I don't know if the county is doing that or not,
I
but
don't either.
I think that's not a bad idea.
But I'm just thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Maybe something needs to be in place where
Mhm.
they say, hey, you're 17 now. Maybe you should think about you want to learn a trade,
Mhm.
you want to college, you want to be a truck driver.
Mhm.
What do you want to do?
I think it should be, we know who these kids are. So it should be something special for them. I don't think you group them with everybody because everybody's circumstances ain't the same. So I think that you have to take those kids and say, I'm going to bring you out of class, Carlos, because I need to talk to you specifically because your future is different than these other kids' future might be. And therefore, we need you to start thinking of this a little bit more serious than what they've been telling you. Because they preach that message in school all the time. It's just some who accept it and some people who don't. And I think that that's maybe the issue in trying to get through that. So as your law firm evolved and the stuff that you're doing now, what are some of the things you guys are most proud of that you're working over there on, and some of the things you're looking forward to growing into as a firm?
Well, I think overall, we're just proud of the job that we do for the community.
And when you
Yeah.
say we, who's all over there with your firm with you?
So we got, like Don Butler's probably the eldest, the attorneys.
Mhm.
We just lost Vicky Ward. She passed away. We got Fernando, myself. We have Jonathan McDonald. We got Zach Humphrey. They have a firm there, and they have younger attorneys up under them. So we come together. The great part is we got such an age, from 30 to 70, and so much legal knowledge there. We have peer-on-peer evaluation. So when I'm going to do something, hey, let me get your input on this, because I don't think I know it all. So we always listen to what somebody else may have. The young guy who's been practicing 7 years,
Right.
he might think a different way. And I'm like, oh, that's a different avenue I didn't think of. So we do peer evaluation of our work to make sure we stay on track. I think that helps us in the courthouse and in the courtroom.
So you guys ever think about wanting to be a prosecutor or any of that stuff over there?
No, nobody think like going back to
I want to go back to that prosecutor. And how about public defender? Who is this public defender? He's just chosen, right?
I think he's picked by a committee.
A committee, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's picked by a committee. My son works at the public defender's office. So
Okay. Yeah, you know what? Your son is an attorney.
yeah, he does good. They do good work over there. I tell everybody, people come to see me, I got the public defender. Oh my God. I said, no. I said, you got good ones and you got bad ones like every place. Listen to what they're saying. Because a lot of times people don't have all the money. And one thing I will do, I'll talk to anybody. Just because some people just want you to hear their story. And I listen, talk to them. Because everybody ain't got the money. An attorney. And a lot of times your life's on the line, you're not sure. Now, technically, we can't talk to someone who's represented by counsel.
Right.
So if they are represented, we tell them, hey, I can't talk to you because you are represented by counsel. But up until that point, I listen to their story and see what's going on and come back and see me if things don't go well with where you're at with respect to get the public defender or assigned counsel or whoever you might have represented.
I see a lot of these videos and stuff with these people getting pulled over from the police and automatically hostile when the cops whirl up on them. What you pull me over for? What did I do? You know, that kind of thing. What's your thoughts on all of that?
One thing I told my son early on, I said, you'll never win a fight on the street with them.
That's true.
You're not going to win that because they trained to go home. They're going to go home by any means necessary. They're going to do what they got to do. They're going to write it the way it's supposed to sound. Thank God for body cameras now, but it's up to us to come and prove it otherwise. So my advice to anybody getting pulled over, just comply. Even though they dead wrong, comply, because you're not going to win that argument or that fight out there on the street. Now, when you get in the courtroom, we tear them up.
Right.
Then they can't answer those questions. And if they got a body camera, I think the body cam and mandating everyone to wear those is one of the best things because it helps and hurts us. Because everybody come in don't tell me the truth either. But when you see that body camera, you can't lie with the video. Video doesn't lie.
You heard of this shots fired program the city's trying to put out, this equipment that if they shoot a shot off in certain areas,
they hear the sound. So I think the couple of cities, either Cincinnati or Columbus has that system in place. And I think what it does, there's a series of microphones placed.
Correct. And
once they hear the shots, and deploy police to that area. I don't think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you get it's going to be followed up with 911 calls.
Correct.
People call when they hear shots fired. We heard gunfire. Come check it out. So I think it helps. I think these city cameras they got up, they're killing me.
Really?
Killing me on trying to defend somebody.
Right.
Because those things people don't
They
realize.
working to your degree.
They working.
For the city's purpose, they working for
They
what?
working.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get.
Yeah, they working, but
Okay.
I can't find a camera to show you there when you say you're in across town.
Right.
And most of the time, those cameras are high definition. You can see clearly
Right, that's you.
what's going on.
Got you.
And oddly enough, people don't look around before they do anything. You know, they say when you leave the house, you own about 300 different cameras anyway.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Everybody got a camera. You got
Well, you
Ring,
know, I just thought about what you're saying. You're right. Ring doorbells
Ring,
everywhere. Your cars got cameras in it.
ATM,
Yeah.
cars.
Right.
I mean, there's cameras.
And a
cars
Tesla
everywhere.
got all kinds of cameras
9
in a
cameras. Yeah.
in the
And
car by itself.
And it's videotaping when you ain't there.
When you ain't there. Exactly. Exactly.
So cameras, Big Brother is watching. And I think more things are on video. And it helps and it hurts.
The county said that part of the issue that some of the protesters and other people who was fighting against the jail were saying they wanted bail reform. and thought that the county could do more now on doing bail reform. And if they did more on bail reform, it will lessen the amount of people that are actually in the jail. You know, they got programs out here, these no bail programs and stuff like that to try to get people out of jail. But to me, and you could let me know, you're the legal man here, couldn't the judges, the prosecutor, and the public defender themselves do more to try to get more people out of jail? Do we have lots of people that are just sitting down there because of the lack of bail reform in your eyes?
We heard Judge Sheehan say the other day, he's the chief judge down in Cuyahoga, most of the people in jail are for rape, murder.
I heard him say that too.
So when you say bail reform, it's odd. During the pandemic, I had people out with aggravated murder on bond. I had a guy out on personal bond for aggravated murder. Never heard of that. Bond for someone charged with murder is $1 million. Most people ain't got $1 million or $100,000 to pay a bondsman. But this no bail thing, I think it's all over politics, or all these videos. Oh, she wants no bail or he wants no bond, you know.
Let's don't say no bail, because I think we'll say bail reform.
Bail reform. So I think when you start saying just let people out on personal bonds, when those people don't come back to court, there's nobody to look for them. So they get a warrant and don't drive a car. More than likely, they're not going to get pulled over. So you don't see them no more. You know? So for me, when the bondsman pays that bond, that surety, when you don't show up, they looking for you.
Okay.
Or those bondsmen are saying, hey, check in once a week with me. You know what I mean? So they're keeping up with these people. I always knew when I had somebody out on bond and I can't get a hold of them, I call the bondsman and say, hey, you heard from this person? You got a number? So I get it. There's people who can't afford to get out. But it's got to be a global resolution for low-level offenses who are in jail and these major offenses.
Okay.
And you can't put everybody on a GPS monitor because
that's expensive.
It's expensive. They got court supervised release too. So you check in with a probation officer once a week, once every 2 weeks. So that kind of helps out with monitoring where these people are. But again, if you don't show up for that, we're going to come and get you. They put a warrant out and hope that you get picked up in a week or two. We don't see you till we see you.
So is there anything from your perspective that you wish the government, the county, or anybody can do as a way of making this system that we in a little bit better?
You know, they say this is the greatest system in the world.
Right.
Until it's not.
Right.
You know, this system that we have, it works. Sometimes it doesn't, because I can leave here right now and go to the county and say, Ken stole $100 from me. They're going to come and arrest you probably.
Wow.
But it's not set up for people to manipulate it like that. So this system been around forever. I think collective minds need to get together, people above my pay grade, and say, what can we do to make this better? Because everything's not going to work for everybody. So you're going to have some people not happy, just like jail situation. Not in my backyard. Nobody wants a jail, you know, where I can see the inmates playing basketball. You know, that means you're going to be living there the rest of your life, because ain't nobody going to buy that house.
Exactly.
So where do you put them?
Right.
You know what I mean? Do you build a thing out in the middle of Lake Erie and say, hey, we solved that problem?
Exactly. Well, don't get them thinking.
Well, I'm just saying. Then the boater's going to be like, hey, that's enough to fish.
That's enough to fish, right.
You know, we can't put weights in the fish now, you know. But
that's great.
I think it's one of those situations that's a revolving door. And we got to get more people involved in the decision on how we're going to fix it.
We're going to bring you back and talk a little bit more about it. But for right now, I want to give you that camera right there, man. You have the ability to say whatever you want to say. If you got a message to the young Black youth you want to leave, you want to talk about your organization, your business, that camera's all yours, brother. Take your time.
Well, the only thing I would say is, my name is Carlos Johnson. I believe bad things happen to good people. And if you need help, you can call me at 216-298-9111. Your second call for help. I'm going to be there for you. My office is there for you. And for the kids, I always have people who come down who want to shadow. We never turn anybody away. We always have interns come down. So if you're interested in being a lawyer, if you ever thought about it, give us a call. Come down and hang out with us for a day. See what we do. We have fun, we laugh, but we're also serious.
And also down in our comments and description, you'll have links to where you can get to Carlos, his website, as well as all of his information. So
All right,
Carlos, thanks again for coming out,
Appreciate
man.
it. Good to see you. Good to
Good
catch
to
up.
see you. Thanks again, brother. All right.
Good one.